Unavowed. You know, this game sort of came onto my radar after I saw somebody playing on Twitch. Now, this was released in August 2018. Obviously, it would not have been on, well, it wasn't on my radar to begin with, to be honest, because at that time I was sort of out of sorts. It was like a month after my wife passed away. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this game, and it was actually a very good game. It's set in New York City, and it is a point and click. One of the beautiful things about this is you can actually select who your character is. Uh, right in the beginning of the game. Your character can be either male or female and have one of various different backgrounds. I chose female actress. And it actually opens with what appears with the Unavowed finding you and then, quote, dispelling a demon from you. So now, it took them a year to find you because they knew of you, but they couldn't locate you. The Unavowed, the two that you first meet, are a half genie, half human, something new, child. Well, she's 400 years old. And a fire mage named Eli. Now, they are in the Unavowed. Eli actually faked his death so that his family could live safely because the fire mages tend to be pursued by a group that really doesn't like them, and it's all part of, well, one of Eli's ancestors' faults. This is revealed as you play the game. Now, while Eli dispels the quote, well, dispels the evil force in you, you have a bit of amnesia because you don't recall what has happened. Well, and that comes apparent because you actually act through it in your first moments in the game. And then you must, of course, leave the place where you've recently done a lot of killing, apparently, only for, as you leave, you get approached by a demonic entity that has been summoned through the void. Now, this is actually where the game gets clever, because this is one of many, many choices that you are going to make in the game that will have an effect later in the game, in the conclusion. And these are not necessarily easy decisions to make. You could either choose to accept this creature or let it, or to allow it to feed on the dead who are innocents, or kill it. And in all honesty, killing it It's not necessarily a pleasant option, but it is because you don't kill innocents. But this thing heard your dispelling and or whatever you use to get rid of the evil force and responded to it. Well, because of this, you are in the Unavowed. You are sort of made not to remember, like, you're made to look, quote, different to those who are not touched by magic. Because, let's face it, you did some nasty shit. You're like public enemy number one to the humans, to the non-mundane. You also meet the head of the. I forgot to mention the half genie's name. That's Mandana. She's actually. She is forced to always tell the truth, and it bothers her to be around lies. Well, after you know, sort things out, join the Unavowed, you're sent on 6 cases. Your first case is, of course, the most recent link to you. Apparently, a little cult's been trying some crazy shit. Of course, you were head of this cult, and then after you left, it's like, well, who cares? The magic wasn't working. You got a ghost there, so maybe if you find a bestower, you can get rid of the ghost later, or have the ghost move on. As you move on through it, you have other characters that you're gonna. But what you find out is that this cult, yeah, this guy was kind of. What ended up happening is the people of your cult sort of scattered after magic went awry. They couldn't save or heal someone. And that's mainly because your spirit, your possessed self, didn't do that, or didn't teach them that proper. Not that they cared, I don't think. And the homeless shelter ended up burning down. Well, this is because that the one guy, he basically cast a spell to become a fire elemental, not knowing that's what he did. Because he didn't want to be cold anymore. Of course, his body froze, I guess, so now his spirit is a fire elemental. So you can either, quote, kill him or send him off once you find him. I'm not going through the full course of how you're going to solve these cases. You got to figure that on your own. Then you have a choice of 2 cases. You must complete both of them before you go back to the ghost that's in where the cult was. By doing this, you end up meeting one case in which there was a triple. There was a double murder-suicide, creating some very restless spirits, almost going Geist. And while you're investigating that and finding out how your shenanigans played a part in that, you meet your bestower and his spirit guide, KK. Now, your bestower's name, I think, is Logan. I like KK. You eventually get to actually interact with her later. Of course, you help the bestower, take care of these geists. while in the process figuring out how to get into the house and all that. And you do have options. You always have options. Once you get these spirits to, go to rest, obviously you get a new ally on your side that you can take on missions. The other, I think, is out on Staten Island, where there is a bunch of deaths happening. And everybody says the same thing. It's a tragedy. A tragedy. It's sort of robotic when they say it. Thing is they're being mentally manipulated. And only one person seems to realize there's something going on, and that is a former detective, because she was drummed out of the force. Oh, she still has good cop connections. And it turns out that you were dealing with a merfolk, that your demon-controlled self made a deal with a merfolk to help get soldiers. Hence all these strange deaths that are a tragedy. A tragedy. And you know that this woman is not touched by, is somewhat not being affected, because she's aware that you are this crazed killer that people have been looking for. So the Unavowed get her on, help her out. They get to the bottom of this. Turns out it was the police chief of the local police chief that was in cahoots with the merman. They were linked. Well, I've revealed that one to you, but the case is just trying to figure it out and how to deal with the merman. You take that, because this is another one of those, what choice do you make? And choices have consequences later on. But you now have the cop on your side as part of the Unavowed, because, hey, they can't go everywhere, and sometimes you need police connections. You then return back to where the spirit is and where the cult was. And when you just, take Logan. Oh, yeah, the cop's name is Vicky. Nice woman. When you get down there, you find a shrine, the shrine and where the dead body is, and it turns out, well, they were dealing with a nature spirit that was not too happy with how much of her land has become, city. In which she captures one of your starting two characters. Most likely it's going to be Mandala. You see, Mandala's father, Kailash, helped imprison her. Or sort of bind her to a certain area. And of course, your demon self, your possessed self, sort of got her this gateway in. Got her worshippers. So now you have to go there to face this entity with Kailash and, of course, one of the other of the originals that goes in. To which she then captures that one for acting a bit rashly. And so we must now fight them off. Well, not fight them off. She challenges Kailash to a duel. Of course, she also infects him with a poison. in which he cannot outlast. So now you have to fit. Now, of course, in the course of things, Kalash will most likely die. But you have to use your brain. You are forced to stand as the witness slash mediator. And there is a loophole in the rules for the duel that must be exploited. After that, like I said, Kalash dies during this. So I'm not telling you the loophole. Well, if you watch my playthrough, you've seen the loophole. If not, well, I'll let you figure it out for yourself. After this, we go back to where your character began and got possessed, and you find a portal there. You also find a note, which gives you that there were 6, quote, chains, power sources powering this pocket dimension. And so, you must now find the other 3, which you have notes for. One involves a baby napping at a corporate financial place who's made dealings with the Fae. It also turns out that the baby that was abducted is Eli's great-grandson. You see, Eli had 2 daughters. One got married, had a son. Now he's gotten married, and he's had a son. So no matter what 2 you start with, if one of them isn't Eli, well, he joins in. So you have to, quote, save the child. And again, you may have to set some ghosts. Depending on who you take with, you have different ways of solving the puzzles. You could have Vicky, or help you out with cop connections. You could have Logan deal with spirits. And in the end, you'll end up getting a jump on the Fae. You have another case that takes place in Chinatown, in which a young man has been arrested for killing his parents. Of course, this is all part of your demon self's maclamations. Or is it maclamations? One of those 2 words. And all this for a dragon, because of a dragon that can provide lucky numbers. But the process, the dragon hasn't been released from its bonds. So it's sort of stuck there. This is about the time when you interact and learn, and it's in this case that you enter a spirit state through methods and can interact with KK. Oh, she's a sassy little 10-year-old. It's actually fun to interact with her, and she will actually call you out if you do dumb stuff like forget that you need her to, quote, open doors or go through doors, because you still can't interact with things. But you can interact with shiny surfaces to get you through things. Now, as you go, you need to break the guy out of jail so that he can dispel the dragon because he's the one who summoned it. Obviously, if he's in jail, he can't do that. Of course, the dragon's going to exact its revenge and all that fun stuff. I'm not telling you how to get him out of jail, but this is what your investigations find out. I mean, let's face it, the odds of a lot, and it's one of those things where you have a lottery winner, two in the same area, in a span of 5 to 10 years. Statistically possible, but it's a long, long way off. Maybe that's a hint for y'all. Now, the third case of these last three cases involves creativity going amok in Brooklyn. Because as it turns out, your demon self gave the muse that you encounter in your background story a chance to be free. Muses can inspire creativity, but they cannot appreciate the fruits of creativity. They cannot be creative. How that works, I don't necessarily understand. But now you got to find who's got this creativity, who's not channeling it right, because creativity going too far makes people go batshit crazy. I mean, you have a little girl who's trying to do a chalk drawing in the rain. You have a donut maker who's going absolutely bonkers. In fact, it's also part of why you need to figure things out. Of course, once you find the new muse, you have either two options of to force him to give up the powers and give them back to Calliope, that's the muse, or let him do what he does and hopefully learn from his mistakes. But again, I'm not telling you that because, like I said, these are things you gotta solve for yourself. I solved them myself. Pretty much did all this on my own, hardly looking anything up. Now, between whatever case you take on before the last case you take on, we have a moment where things are a little out of your control. And in fact, as you are about to go off what might appear to be on a mission, you have to get word to KK. Because apparently you've been possessed again. Once KK alerts them and you, quote, the malevolent entity gets you to escape, and then you get caught. Before they're to dispel the spirit, the evil spirit, we get a surprise. And Logan points out, is it supposed to look human? Turns out to dispel the evil doesn't necessarily mean a demon. Also sort of doesn't mean that what turns out is that while they were trying to pursue a, quote, demon of intellect, more like a spirit of intellect, they thought this was the evil force. No, the evil force was the human who summoned them. You've been playing the entity of intellect this whole time. And this could have in turn made you into something new. Now, once this is done, and you finish that sixth case, you're now going back to where everything happened and entering the pocket dimension, where you must now make your way to the, quote, evil entity and defeat them. This is where your choices earlier are important. You see, you have about 6 people, you have 5 people who can help you get across to this area. Well, you and your Unavowed, so you got like 4 people to your side. And you must work your way through. However, you also have the ability to summon all of the entities you've dealt with. You have your guy turned fire elemental, if you've taken the option to let him live. You have, of course, the, quote, ligamental. You have the general, the merfolk general. You have the fae, who is of the winter court. You have the dragon. You have the forest spirit. You have the muse. You need to call on them, because if you have to use your allies, their numbers dwindle quickly because it takes a toll on them. And then you must face off against your evil version of yourself to hopefully defeat them. In the end, depending on your choices at the end, you could get either a good ending or a bad ending. It's the choice that's up to you, and I'm not going to tell you all the endings. I managed to pick the good ending. But again, it's all up to you, and this is the beauty of this game. And you have, depending on your ending, you get to see some more of the Unavowed in action. I mean, after they finish up another case, they ended up, an entity shows up. It's like, I'm going to take over this realm. And it's like they face off. Fire mage ready to launch fire. Mandala has her sword ready to fight. Vicky's got her gun drawn. And your bestower is like, can we at least not create so many ghosts this time? And at the end, he's like, nope. And he disappears. This is actually a great game. I enjoyed playing it. I enjoyed figuring things out. it doesn't leave you hanging. It does not leave you hanging at all in this. And that is, this is definitely, I'd love to see a sequel to Unavowed. I would love to see a sequel to this game. And if it's even done in the same way, I'd appreciate it. And I should note that as you play the game, your opening scene changes. Like if you don't play it in one sitting, you exit out of the game, you will see your lineup change accordingly. I mean, you have Kalash in there, you have your character there, you have, of course, your other character, like Mandala and Eli there, and when you get Logan, he shows up there with KK. When you get Vicky, she shows up there. When Kalash dies, he's gone from the lineup. It's all dependent on your choices. I think that's a very nice touch to add to the game. And that's all I'm going to say about Unavowed. I recommend you getting it. I recommend you playing it. It's definitely an experience. And I hope you've enjoyed me talking about this game, and I hope you play the game. I hope you watch the playthrough of the game. All that. And when you play, hey, maybe you'll make different choices than I did. Maybe you'll make mistakes. I made mistakes and had to work with them. That's the nature of the game. Until next time, take care all. Bye.